So welcome everybody to the June 9th, 2020 Town of Wakefield Planning Board meeting. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Tonight we have no public hearings. The meeting minutes of the previous meetings will table to the end and have a discussion about that. The public hearing for Lovis Ave has been continued. Under other business, the A&R plan for Lancaster Road is in review by the town engineer, and that will be continued to the next meeting. So next up on tonight's agenda is Montrose School Lane restrictive covenants. So there's, we're familiar with Montrose School Lane. It was a school turned into a subdivision. And because of the buffer zone or the trees around there, a restrictive covenant was put together to help understand what the owners of the property, when buying their house in the subdivision, understood what area they had to maintain as, or not maintain, but leave as is. So what I'd like to do this evening, just to refresh everybody's memory, is to go over a little bit of the Montrose School Lane restrictive covenant, and then look at a proposal that went to the building department, I think at the beginning of May, and we can look at those plans too. And Mr. and Mrs. Reeves are here tonight to discuss their proposal and plans for a pool in that restrictive covenant. And we can look at pictures. I went out to visit with the Reeves and took some pictures of their site, their property that I can show, and we can discuss it. This isn't a public hearing, but after we're done discussing, it would be great to get some feedback in the discussion with Mr. and Mrs. Reeves and anybody else who'd like to. So with that, I'm going to share. I'm always careful about what I want to share. I don't want to see everything. It's like, what is that? I'm careful about it. So I think I have everything ready. Here's the covenant from the Montrose School Lane that was done. Let's see. I don't see a date there, but it was before I joined the planning board. So we're going to jump down. That's not the one I wanted. PDF. That's not what I want either. Huh. I have it up on my screen. There we go. So it's this other one here and then this one. Okay. So this is the actual covenant, and you can see planning board, about 8 pages, July 8th, 2008. And I'm going to jump through, we're not going to read through the whole thing. We're going to jump to, I think, number 7, that specifically reads what the covenant applies to the pool that's being proposed. The pavement of the existing driveway to the property off of Wharton Park shall be removed, and said area shall be grassed and not used for driveway purposes. Let's see, prior to the endorsement of the plan, the applicant shall present a supplementary restrictive covenant relative to this condition, which shall be binding on that lot owner and their successors and/or assigns. The board and the Wakefield Town Council shall approve the supplemental restrictive covenant as to form and content. So this is keeping this all together. There's this number 6. We'll go to sheet number 7 in a minute. The plan designates certain areas on the plan relating to the preservation of existing trees by stating existing trees outside approximate limit of soil disturbance are to be saved. Prior to the endorsement of the plan, the applicant shall present a supplementary restrictive covenant relative to the preservation of trees as designated on sheet 7 of the plan, which shall be binding on all lot owners and their successors and/or assigns. The board and the Wakefield Town Council shall approve the supplemental restrictive covenant as to form and content. Said supplemental restrictive covenant shall be recorded at Middlesex South Registry of Deeds and shall be superior in title to any mortgages relating to the land within the subdivision. So these two together explain what it is and how it gets approved. So I'm going to share It's a different file type. Let me open up all of them while I'm in here. Okay. So we'll start with sheet number 7 that's recorded. This is the entirety of the subdivision. Zooming in, you can see off of street coming through. I believe this one right here is the Reeves property.
Yeah.
And there's a blow up on the next enlarged plan. So this will help us understand a little bit more. So you can see the corner of their lot, and this will help when I bring up photos too. But you can see, let me get a highlighter. So this is that corner. This is their house. Here's the line of the restrictive covenant. So everything in here shouldn't be touched. After our meeting, I understood more about what's happening here, except for I think this tree right here. These trees don't exist anymore. There was they had some type of a disease and it was brought in front of the town planner or the planning board, and those trees were removed. And that's something that was previously done. So we're not questioning about any of these trees being removed because they're already gone. There's a one tree here, and I'm not sure if this tree's still here, but I think that's the only one. And then on the other property, there's about 4 or 5 trees that line their back fence. So before we go to the proposal, I'll go ahead and open the images. Okay, so, and Mr. and Mrs. Reeves, Chuck and Cheryl, if I'm saying anything incorrectly about the property, feel free to jump in and correct me. Don't mind at all.
Okay.
So here you can see, here's that fence along the back. You can see the one tree right here that remains on their property. The other trees here are gone. The other trees that you can see here are on the other side of the fence and in their neighbor's yard.
Bill, we're not seeing these pictures.
Oh.
They're very small, Bill.
Oh, thanks for letting me know. Is that better?
There you go.
You couldn't see those little thumbnails? Well, when I double clicked, I figured you could see it. Okay, thanks, Matt. Thanks, Chuck. So this tree over here, you can see my white cursor. This tree is the only one out of those bunch of trees that are in the restrictive covenant that remains. The other ones that sat here, and Chuck, how many years ago was that? Was it six? It must have been just before my tenure.
We took them down?
Okay.
That's
10 or 11.
Oh,
2010 or 11.
okay, cool. So you can see these other trees here, 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 and here are on the other, their property behind them, and this fence runs through. I'm gonna go to a few other views. Can you all see that one? Did it switch to another one?
Yeah.
Oh, good, okay. Let's see if this works now. If, before I do anything else, I want to make sure I open up the chat because I cannot see it. Okay.
My picture didn't switch, Bill. It's the same picture.
No, it's still there.
Oh, it is. Okay, let me go to the new share. And I guess I have to click on each one individual. Let me stop this share and go to, maybe if I go right to the picture and then I can flip through. So this is a picture from looking at the house from the street. This is the left side. And again, you can see the trees and you can start to see their patio out their back door. I'm standing between the two houses here. Here's a picture closer to the fence of the property, looking right through. So this corner is where there was a tree and trees were across here. Those trees are all gone. And this is where the restrictive covenant, you can almost see the shadow line If you looked on the plan, that's about it. From the back. This is now from the right side of the house, even with the side of the house, looking right to where that fence comes out at the 90 degrees. Right from the back of their house. This was an interesting shot. And I asked a few questions about it. There's no fences between these properties. And I inquired why. It's like, it's great. The kids run back and forth through here constantly. So that's just wide open. That's looking from the side of the house back out towards the road. And this is from that same spot looking back towards the fence and the trees here. So that's looking at this corner from their house, both sides along the back and from the other side. Here is, let's see. Here's the survey done by Hayes. Can you all see the survey?
Yep.
Awesome. So this is from May 21st of this year. And the same piece of property, let me see if I can get everything in here. So you can see this is where the house is sitting. Here. I want the highlighter and we can get, there's the corner. And there's the property line running down here. So the only tree that remains is sitting right about here. The rest of those trees are on the property behind. So this is what I learned from visiting and looking at the plans. And I'd like to open up to the planning board, to Matt and Bill, to see if you have any questions or comments. And just before we go into that, we're not approving this pool as far as it can be constructed and built. We're proving that it can be done and issued to the building department because it's in this restricted area.
Well, the trees are already been all cut down anyways, right?
Except for this one here, which I'm not sure, and that's going to be something that maybe Hayes will know, or as they construct the pool, how far the roots go. When you're standing right where the pool would be constructed and you look up, it's outside the drip line of the tree, the way the tree is just growing straight up and has been pruned. So it's not in the canopy.
What kind of a tree is it? Do they know?
Are they large maples?
I think it's an oak, to tell you the truth.
An oak? Okay.
Yeah, we have lots of acorns in the ground. I'd say it's an oak, yes.
Okay. Like when you rake.
Oh, yes.
Okay. Bill, any comments or questions?
Well, I mean, if there's a pool there and, you know, you're using chlorine and chemicals and all that stuff, is that gonna kill that oak tree when you drain off and all that kind of stuff? I don't know.
I don't know either about the pool.
Yeah, I'm not,
Yeah.
you know, tree expert.
Is it an in-ground pool, above ground pool?
We'd like to put it in ground.
And you're gonna put a deck around it?
Well, you know, like pavers.
Correct.
Yep.
How far is that gonna go out?
Oh, at the one corner near it looks like it's about 18 feet away from that tree, the corner of the pool. So if you had it, you know, whatever it would be, 6 or 8 feet around the pool. So it would still be, you know, 8 feet away, I guess, 8 or 10 feet away from it.
It'd be about 10 feet away,
Yeah.
8 feet out, yeah.
I mean, the trees in the restrictive covenant already been destroyed. It's been grassed over for years, so it's basically been ignored at this point anyways. Which is part of the problem up there, is nobody really honored it except for 1 or 2 owners. So why is the pool stuck way far in back? Can't you bring it closer to the house and keep it out of the restrictive covenant?
Well, I mean, as I explained to Bill, if we bring it down, much closer to the house, then we're talking in, as he said, one of the benefits of the neighborhood of the kids just, run through all the yards is like 24 kids in the neighborhood. And if we bring it down closer to the house, then that requires fencing in the whole backyard and, it limits all the access and fun for most of the kids in the neighborhood. That's why we were trying to keep it up in that back area. I could fence in just that back area and still leave the, alleyway to all behind the houses for the kids to, play and have fun, run around.
Matt, this is about aligned with the fence and that planter that's on the left side, just out of sight. And this is where this raised area comes up and flattens out. And it looks like to me, the line of the pool is close to right about here across.
Well, it would have been nice if they had, if Hayes had done the plan showing where the restrictive covenant is, how it overlays. But we don't have that, so.
No, and I went back and forth between the two just to see if I could somehow figure out how to overlay them. Because you can see here, here's the area. And if I go close to the same size, this is this is what I do for fun, back and forth. And there's got to be some good software that does this. But I got it really close. And
It's a pretty simple thing that Hayes, I do it all the time, so it can be overlaid quite
Yeah.
easily. It almost looks like the entire pool is almost in restrictive covenant, so.
right, except for this corner right here, you can see that just this part is out of it. You can see where this tree was, looks like that corner right there. And then it comes closer in, sorry. It comes closer in to about here across, and then down to about here and back over.
Could I ask a question there?
Please, Bill.
With the pool being so close to, in that area, closer to the other people's lot line too, are they gonna have like, a water runoff? Because you have to, and then start going on to the other people's property. When you have to clean it, you have to do all this chemical stuff. I know there's a lot of chemicals involved with pools. And I noticed there's all like flowers here and all kinds of stuff. And is it gonna do any damage?
Chuck, what do you do when you had mentioned that you've had an ice rink here
Correct.
in the past with lights and everything for like the neighborhood kids and everything.
Yep.
What did you do with this ice rink when everything melted? Where did it all run off to? I know it's different, not chemicals and everything, but.
I actually, in that corner right there where the garden used to be, I punctured a hole in the corner and it ran right through my neighbor's yard. I told her to just, she kept the dogs in the house for 2 hours and it ran right along the edge of her flower bed, right out to Wharton Park.
Right. But that's like in March.
Correct.
When that happens.
Yep.
Right. Okay. Obviously, you're not doing the same thing with the pool. It's a whole different.
Yeah. No.
Yeah. Okay. To Matt's point, the trees are gone. Does the pool shift a little closer to the house to get away from the neighbor's yard? I don't know. And if that's what we want to discuss as a board tonight, I'm open to that. It would be great to have a decision tonight whether that we can pass on to the building inspector. That way the Reeves know for sure what's going on with this restrictive covenant and where they can place the pool.
Well, my feeling is it would have been nice if the neighbors out there had respected the restrictive covenant to start with.
Right.
Instead of just, we've seen it other places, all the trees have been cut down on a lot of these abutting yards. So, I mean,
Excuse me
doesn't-
for 1 second. I did have Paul Rivas and Dennis Fazio out to look at those trees. I mean, they were infested with carpenter ants. That's why they told me we could take them down. I didn't just do it on our own.
Well, thank you. That's good to know too. So the trees it was approved for the tree removal from my understanding. So that's, that's how the covenant's supposed to work.
But, but, I mean, shouldn't the board have been notified?
I'm not sure if it was or not. I think that was right before I came onto the board.
I don't ever remember. Matt, do you?
I don't remember it either. When was that done?
I think they said 2010.
I know the first two were 2010, and then the next two were 4 or 5 years later. I mean, the carpenter ants, we had them in the house, and you could see them all around the trees. And I mean, I had Paul Rivas and Dennis Fazio out to the yard, and they looked at them, and Dennis agreed that they were loaded with ants, and that we could take them down. I mean, I didn't realize I was supposed to tell the planning board as well. I mean, he's part of the Parks Department, so.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm looking at the Google Street View from September 2012. It shows the trees there, and they all look pretty healthy to me. Don't see any issues with them, but nothing we can do about trees that are dead and gone. So,
Is there concern about the tree that is existing in the corner? To me, that's the question.
well, yeah, I tell you the truth, the closer you put it pool to trees, the more likely you're going to get leaves in it, and then you're going to want to cut the rest of the trees down so you have no leaves in the pool. So, I mean, that's one of the issues right there.
I'm concerned about the root system of that tree as they're excavating for the pool. And as we know, if that's damaged, then the tree has a limited life. And as we've learned too I've learned a lot over the last couple of years on the planning board, that these trees all feed off each other. And I don't want this tree, if it's taken down, to be the tree that causes those other 4 trees on the other property to also lose their lust for life, for lack of a better term.
Bill, in regards to the leaves, I mean, we know we're going to deal with leaves because my neighbor's property, that whole fence line is loaded with trees. I mean, we know we're going to deal with leaves.
Okay.
And, we're not interested in taking down that tree in our property either. I mean, it's part of life. We're going to have to deal with it. So there's plenty of sunlight. So we're okay with it.
You can
So
see sorry, go ahead, Chuck. Matt.
Has anyone talked to the neighbors on this? Because the restrictive covenant was to benefit the neighbors here. So
When I visited the site, Chuck and Cheryl assured me, I didn't talk to the neighbor on the other side, but they have a good relationship on the other side of the fence with the neighbor, a good history. So obviously that's hearsay, so I can't say I know for sure, but I'd like to take their word for it.
Yes, I spoke to Katie Van Whaley, who lives in the house directly behind us, and she has no problem with the pool, and she told me she would write a letter if she needed to. We're very friendly with her. I wouldn't do anything to, wreck our friendship, that's for sure.
Matt, the question I didn't know, and I'm not sure if Paul, if you know, are you allowed to put a swimming pool deep within the setback of the zoning setback?
That's not something I deal with. So
Yeah, me neither. And that would be something that,
that would be something Gail would handle, or
yep.
Jack Roberto.
And Chuck, did you get any feedback from them about the location of the pool? as far as
Yeah.
setback?
No, they just said that they needed to speak to you people. And, that's when, you contacted me, or I contacted you, whatever it was.
Right. So I know it came through to me from Gail at the building inspector's office, then from Paul Revis. So I know this is.
I
looked this up.
don't think the planning board would want to approve this with restrictions about the setback because we don't know what they are as far as zoning.
Well, that's what I wanted to bring up too. Looking at the location, and it's this is an SR, so it's a single residence where Montrose School Lane is. Montrose School Lane single residence is 20 feet on the front, side is 15, and the rear is 25. And that's just something we know, but again, it's not something that we can approve or not approve.
Well,
That's
that's for a
part.
primary building bill. That wouldn't be for a garage or a shed or a pool.
Right. Okay.
This would be a auxiliary use.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Well, but Paul, why do they, if a pool is in a backyard, if it's a foot too close to the lot line or something, they make the movement. So there must be some kind of setbacks with the pools.
Yes, I'm sure there is. I just don't think that is something that I want to get involved in reviewing for the building inspector's department.
Agreed.
I'd rather them.
It is agreed, but I mean,
That is their purview, not something I would get involved with.
So then, would the building inspector get involved because this is going to maybe be too close?
Yes,
Okay.
that may say it has to come move in another direction. I don't know. We did not get
Building department.
the feedback on that. That their only question is, this is in the restricted covenant area.
Yeah.
Right.
So they referred it to us for that. I'm not familiar with the trees that were cut here. I did go look at another piece of property with Mike Collins, probably about 2012, and the tree was to be limbed up and maybe one or two trees cut because they were too close to the house. But I'm not familiar with this wholesale cutting of all these trees. This is new information to me. And, if you have some documentation that I went to the site and reviewed and approved this, I would certainly accept that if you could provide that, but I don't have that information. And I went back through all my emails all the way back to 2012, and I didn't find any documentation on this restrictive covenant area, the trees cut. Not to say that Mr. Fazio didn't go out and look at it and overrule because of the carpenter ants. I just don't have any information on that, and I'm certainly agreeable to yielding to whatever is available. But I don't recall this.
Okay. Thank you, Paul. And Matt and Bill, same. This did not come in front of the planning board. I did look through some notes. I don't have notes from before I was on the board, so.
I've been here a while. I know all the properties up here that have come before the planning board.
Mm-hmm.
And that's been basically one. So.
Right.
Right, I think somebody should have notified us on taking anything down in the restricted area. I don't care if it's if it's Fazio because he's with the town, that doesn't mean anything to me. It's something that should have been taken to us and not just taken down because there's some ants.
Right, and I'm not happy the trees, if they were taken down without any type of review by the planning board or with the covenant and that was lifted, but that's all done. They're not there anymore. How do we want to proceed with the location of the pool, the tree that remains? I think you can all see the picture I have up here. There's one tree that remains here, this split trunk. and we think it's an oak. I looked up from standing on this flat area. The drip line is not where the pool would be. I am concerned about the roots. I am open to the pool shifting a little further back towards the house, but not to impede on the pathway, keeping the openness of those backyards. It was actually really nice standing back there.
Let me tell you what I think. This is the first I'm hearing about this whole thing. So
Okay.
I didn't, I saw it was on the agenda. I didn't know where it was for. I would prefer to see a plan what's actually going to be built out there, not just a pool, but what's actually going to be built. There's going to be a huge patio around there, whatever. I want to see that, how much is going to encroach into the restrictive covenant. Just because the trees are all gone doesn't mean that they can't be replaced either. So I'm a little hesitant right now to approve this without a little bit more information and actually go in and do a little research on my own. So that's where I stand right now.
Thanks, Matt. Would it help to go out to visit the site, or have you seen enough and just want to see a plan that shows the design of the pool and the pool area?
I want to see how much of this restrictive covenant is going to be impervious area. For one thing, we see a pool there, but if he's going to put a patio and a big deck around there, I want to see how much that is. So,
And what's the square footage?
Okay.
and again, I mean, if these restrictive covenants and these trees just get cut down all the time and people come in and ask for forgiveness afterwards, what's the point of having them? So.
Understood. So is the next step to have the Reeves produce a plan that shows the layout of the pool, any other built area around the pool, whether it's a patio or fencing or steps, to show the extent of all that?
Yeah, for me, I want to see what's going to be built out there, and then how you can overlay the restrictive covenant to see how much of that is taking up that restrictive covenant.
Right.
What I'd like to see.
Okay. And I know to have the pool and everything designed, I've never put in in-ground pools or at this level, so I don't know what it takes to have that pool designed, if it's something that the pool company actually does for their client, or if it's something they have to have somebody draw up, whether it's a landscape architect or I'm not sure.
Excuse me too. I just wanted to say something that if they do have something wrong with the pool and they have to drain it all, where's all that water gonna go? You got to think about that.
Well, I know we've learned from other projects, and I have in my own, they have to bring in a pump truck and drain it if there isn't, they can't just let it drain into the catch basin.
Right. Well, it's not going to. I mean, it's going to go into the next yard.
Or it has to be pumped out though. There's no like plug on the pool and then it goes away.
No,
It's
I know that.
ground, so they
I know
have
they
to
have to pump it up.
pump it out. Right.
I know.
Okay. Well, that's a lot of stuff that we can't control. And I know I'm not something, it's actually something that we do have control of. I want to be able to get the information we need to make a decision. So if we're asking for a pool design that would include the layout of the pool, dimensioned, the location of the pool from the actual restrictive covenant overlaid across where the pool and the pool patio or fencing or steps that would be designed.
Mr. Chairman, we also need to know what the building inspector would approve before all this exercise is done.
How do we go about that, Paul? Because I haven't run into a situation where we had to get approval from the,
Well, the engineer would need to check with the building inspector's department about the setbacks,
okay,
whatever is proposed. And, you know, if there's going to be also a wall or a fence along the back property line, that would be good to know now.
right, because that is raised up. If that area is being dug out for the pool, okay. So this plan that's going to be created for the pool design, showing the restrictive covenant over it, is also going to, it will need to be sent to the town engineer and building inspector for review?
I would think so.
Okay. I'm just taking notes to make sure. I know Linda's taking notes, but I'm also for my own notes.
Well, I think it's important to have an exercise where you know something really can get built rather than have a design and then the building inspector turn it down because it doesn't meet the setbacks or some conditions that are inherent with pools.
Understood.
Well, what are the normal setbacks for a swimming pool in a neighborhood? I mean, it was my understanding is like 7 feet from the back property line and 15 from the sides.
If it goes as an accessory structure, then that sounds right, but it's something that our board does not, doesn't oversee. So it would be by the building inspector's office.
So I mean, we had applied for a permit with the building department, and because of the covenants of this neighborhood, they wanted the planning board to approve that it was okay to put it there first
Right.
before they would issue a permit.
My assumption
So-
would be that they didn't look at the plan for dimensional restrictions or approval. They just noticed where Montrose School Lane, and before they even look at it, the planning board needs to approve
Okay,
the building inside of the restrictive covenant first.
okay.
Just curious, Chuck, have you laid out a design for this yet, or is it still kind of new, waiting to see what you can do first?
Well, we were trying to find out, where we could possibly put it.
Mhm.
And depending on where we could put it, maybe we need to do a different shaped pool if that's the case, if it's closer to a existing property line or covenant or,
Yeah.
So we were just trying to find out, ideally, we'd like to keep it into the back part of that yard, as I explained to you, just to
Right.
keep the openness of the rest of the yard. If it means putting something a little bit smaller or different, a kidney shaped pool as opposed to a, rectangular 16 by 32, we would be open to that. But, I don't have any professional drawn up plans.
Understood. Also, after listening to the board and Mr. Revis, and thank you for the comments, I think the next step is to have a pool design laid out with the covenant, restrictive covenant laid over this to see where it sits. And it would be great to see where the design, my thing is I don't want that other tree to go.
Agreed.
Yep, and to somehow pull this back so it doesn't disturb the root system of that tree. And of course, as Matt brought up, we're concerned about the neighbor. And I know you said you have no problems and it's good, but if you do have that letter from the neighbor, that would really help us understand more too. Meaning that she understands, or they understand your design, what you're proposing to do with a fence blocking the view or whatever they might be used to seeing, to make sure that they're okay with that.
Okay.
Matt and Bill, is there anything else that you'd like to see?
No, I,
Besides the old trees, just there and under, I totally understand the importance of this restrictive covenant. So Chuck and Cheryl, do you have enough direction to move forward with a proposed plan showing more of a design of what you're intending to have there?
Yes. I guess I'll have to have Hayes draw something up for me.
Honestly, I'm not sure it's Hayes. If you're and I don't want to give you advice on this, that's not our job as a planning board, but it sounds like a pool company that's coming to put this pool in would help you with the design so they can show you what you're capable of putting in there with the budget and everything in place.
I mean, until I know where I can put it, I mean, how is he supposed to draw it?
True.
You know?
Put it where you think you want it to be after this meeting tonight with the design laid out, and then we can review it.
But
The
I mean,
town engineer can review it, the building inspector can review it. Then you'll get your answers. Right now, just
Okay.
looking at a rectangle, it's hard to tell what's going to be there. That 32 by 16 could be just the extent of the patio, and then the pool has to be inside of that. And I'm not sure that's what you want.
Okay.
Because right now, if I'm looking at this plan, if I went out there, I would expect 20'7" on that right side and 18'6" from that corner, and nothing built in that area where those dimensions are shown.
Okay. So I just had him plug in the pool, so you want everything plugged in. Okay, I get it.
It doesn't have to be real fancy. It just has to show us what's going there. We
Okay.
don't need 3D views and all that. It would just really help to understand where it is with the restrictive covenant overlaid.
Okay.
Yep. You're going to have to think about all that stuff anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So once all of that information is pulled together and it comes back to you,
Mhm.
how often do you reconvene?
We meet the second and fourth Tuesday of each month. Building inspector's office is open each day. Town hall is open, and you could set that up by calling the number and speaking with Gail, who takes care of registering and the plans and all. The town engineer's office is also open. Every day town hall is open, and you can find that information on the town website. And you should feel comfortable calling them to get more advice as well.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Matt, did you say something?
No,
Okay, I thought I heard a voice. I'm hearing voices. It's great.
We're done.
Yeah, that's I think that's all we have tonight on this agenda item. And I hope it's been helpful to understand how we operate as a board, and that we do want the best for what you're proposing, but also our hope and intent is to make sure this covenant stays in place, and the neighbors, as Bill and the rest of the board has talked about, we're really concerned about runoff, because that's been most of our meetings and calls and site visits about Montrose School Lane and a lot of other subdivisions. Is a lot about drainage and runoff.
Well, you saw here yourself. I mean, there wouldn't be a lot of runoff.
Understood. Bill brought up a couple of good points, though. What do you do with it? When, where does it go? And I know you have some experience with the ice rink that you'd have there and how that runs off. And that helps. I do recommend having a letter from your neighbor to, yeah, that would
I will.
definitely help.
Sure.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for attending tonight. It does help to hear your comments back and forth. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, we should be back to the agenda. And Matt, I apologize, and Bill, for not sharing this earlier. I know I went out to visit the site and have all the pictures and everything together. I just honestly haven't had time to pull it all together in a presentation type of way.
no problem.
I usually like to pull up deeds and see who, how long people have lived there, things like that, just to get a little background on it. So,
Yeah.
if he's the original owner, then obviously any work that's been done out there has, been done by him.
Okay.
And that whole back area was all grassed over, and so clearly the buffer was never really respected at all. So,
Right. Point taken. Item number 5, definitive plans endorsement Wildwood Street, 7 Glendale Ave. That's continued. And down at the bottom of the agenda, you can see that the deadline for Lovis, let's see, Lovis Ave is September 30th. Do we know the deadline for definitive plan for Wildwood in Glendale? We're not up against anything, are we, Paul?
No, you've already approved those. You're waiting on Mr. McGrail to bring the documents in for signature.
Okay, that's right. Yeah,
So
been a little lazy. I'm not looking through my notes to find
no,
out. Sorry.
you've met all your deadlines on those.
That's great. That's the best news I've heard all day. I've met all the deadlines. I love that. All right. Well, let's move on to topics not anticipated by the chair. Mr. Town Planner, you won't have too many of these opportunities to bring up any topics. Is there anything that you'd like to share with us?
I have nothing tonight.
Okay. Thank you. Planning board members, Bill, Matt, is there anything that you'd like to bring up this evening?
Well, I only want to make one point about the agenda. The A&R plan, it was never accepted, so we really can't continue it. It's something, once it's brought to the board and accepted, then we have to act on it. So we may not want to have that on the agenda because it's not, you know, we have a lot of A&Rs that potentially could be out there. We shouldn't put them on we should only have things that are actively due. So if we had accepted that, then we would have had 3 weeks to act on it. It should have been on the agenda at that point, but we haven't accepted it. So
Right.
I don't even think it should be on the agenda.
So understood that the 21-day period, once the planning board, it's released and we review it, the 21 days starts on that review, that meeting. By having it on the agenda, does it start that 21 days?
No, but
Okay.
it gives the impression that we're reviewing it or working on it. We don't, you know, once a proper plan is submitted to us, then we have to act. It almost
Right.
looks like we're under some deadline now because it's on the agenda.
Okay.
So I would just say, take it off the agenda. If it comes back next meeting, that's one thing. If it doesn't, no big deal. When it does come back, if we accept it, then we either have to vote on it, or you know, do our due diligence, which is 21 days.
Understood. Thanks for the clarification. So we can strike the A&R plan under other business number 3 for Lancaster Road from tonight's agenda. I did receive a email message from Attorney McCarthy that it is being reviewed by the town engineer, and he's expecting that to be on the agenda for the next meeting. So if, Paul, if we can have the A&R plan for Lancaster Road, if you can.
I think Matt is absolutely right. I don't know exactly how to handle this because he's not met with the town engineers yet. And I don't know if that's going to happen or when.
Okay.
So I end up trying to schedule something in a cooperative way that, you know, whether that road is actually going to be built according to town standards, I don't know.
Right.
And I don't know when you'll meet with the town engineer. And it would need to be between now and next Wednesday for me to understand what the agenda is going to be.
Okay. Understood. So we'll wait to find out.
Yes.
We'll wait and see. Okay. Thanks, Paul. Thanks, Matt. Matt and Bill, any other items?
You know what I'd like to ask, Bill?
Yes.
Now,
Oh, I'm sorry. I don't know what you'd like to ask, but please.
no, I know you don't. What we were talking about, you know, the restricted covenants on Montrose and everything. I don't think if there's restricted covenants for trees and everything, I don't believe we should have someone from the town to go look at them. It's got ants, take them down.
Right.
Nobody's notifying us. I think we should make that a little bit stronger because what about other trees in that area now? Somebody calls someone, Fazio, to come down and look at the trees? Oh yeah, there's a lot of ants there. You can cut it down. What,
That's a good point, and Mr. Fazio needs to know that it's not his, he can go and look at the trees, and
Right.
then he can let us know what he thinks of them, but it's up to the planning board to make the decision on the restrictive covenant, and that's how it's written. And I'm really glad that Gail brought this up as it went to plans to her. She sent it to Paul to give to put on the agenda, which is how it should work.
right.
Right.
No, so no, that was terrible because
Yeah.
we never saw those trees. We were the ones that should have made a decision on it.
I know, and I'd like to think that in all good faith that the trees were diseased and they needed to come down, but we don't have a record of it. And I appreciate Paul going back and looking in his emails. I know that's not an easy task to do. So record keeping is so important.
Excuse me, I'm sorry about the dog.
It's okay.
Well, we do have some records we can look at, like I'm looking at Google Street View right now and I see perfectly healthy trees.
Do we know Google Street View is actually taking it from that year, or could it be a couple of years before? I mean, I know it's good technology, but I don't know if it's date stamped to when the actual Google map card drove around.
That's true, we don't, but
Yeah.
it's dated, it said the image is from September 2012.
And the trees were there?
And I've seen other, I'm on Google Street Views where you can actually see me out there working and the actual date is correct of when it was taken. So they are pretty accurate.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll wait to see the plan and we can learn more and make a better decision because of it. And I wonder if the process too, do we want to make sure before we look at it that the town engineer and the building inspector's office reviews it, just in thinking about the owners going through a process? We don't want them to be delayed longer if it is something that can't be approved. And obviously we don't want our time taken up for that either.
Well, if we give our blessing to something and it has to get pushed further away from the back line, it would only make it better. So I don't have an issue with that.
Okay.
But like I point out, we don't even know what they're actually planning to do there because it's just a pool. That whole back area could be all a patio and could be, pavers and draining off into neighbors. And so, I want to see what's actually going to happen there.
Same here. Okay. So I do have an item for tonight. Actually, two items. One is, as a planning board, how involved do we want to get with the downtown area and helping to plan or assist with COVID-19 or post-COVID-19 planning of street cafes versus street blockages and dates and time? And this has been a topic at the last two town council meetings. I don't know if you got to watch the last one from last night. Started a little early, but they did discuss, and there were a few residents in town that also brought up some options that the town council is reviewing. As a planning board, should we get involved in this?
I don't think it's really up to us. If the town councils don't want to involve us, there's nothing we can do about it.
I disagree. I think as a board, we could say that we want involvement, and that's maybe how it could happen. If it's something we want to do as a board, I want to do it personally as a resident and an architect. But if it's something we want to do as a board, I would approach it in a different way.
I mean, sure, I would always want us to be involved, but that doesn't mean really much of anything. So you can go to them and say, yes, we'd like to be involved. see
Well,
what happens.
this is a temporary situation. These are temporary permits that are being granted. And town council last night did vote to give the town administrator the approval authority to allow merchants and to put products in the parking spaces and in front of their stores. Also allowing restaurants to put outdoor dining there. I view it as something that's temporary, probably for 6 months maximum.
Okay.
There'll be time limitations in these permits. If you look at the material that was given to the town council and presented, there was a permit that was crafted by Mr. Mullen.
Mhm.
And it's a temporary permit. And this is trying to help the merchants essentially survive this downtime until they can open 100%. So, I think if you want to get involved, that's great. Maybe you can help people do drawings or do whatever they need to do layouts.
Right.
I don't know the extent of what's going to be required of them. The application allows people to just essentially write down how many tables and chairs and arrange them in the space. I think have the Board of Health look at it to see that it has the distance requirements. Have the
Right.
building inspector look at it that it doesn't interfere with emergency access, egress from buildings. And then that's where we are.
Understood. I know occupancy load might be the biggest design problem that most of these restaurants and businesses are going to have. I know we've been working that out. My firm has been working that out. And this is something that I wouldn't do in the name of my firm, but something that I would be doing just in assistance pro bono on my own for the town residents, the town businesses, just to see if they need any assistance.
I mean, the one issue with involving the board is that we need to meet as a board.
Mhm.
Have a set schedule. So if someone's waiting 2 weeks for us to act on something, that's not the best use of anyone's resources if you're trying to get something done quickly. So,
Understood.
and I think that's how it would be, presented if we wanted to act as a board. So.
Right, I know the scope would be completely different than me as an architect helping versus a board, our board, helping with a bigger picture of what post-COVID could also look like too, with layouts after these permits expire, after this happens. I'm not sure business will go back to what it was before, but it would be good to help with some type of a plan. And maybe it's a conversation I have with the town administrator, just to see if there's any request from any of the business owners for that type of guidance.
The city of Cambridge has a website that deals with outdoor dining,
Okay,
and they have guidelines for pop-up restaurants. That's, I think, what you're thinking in terms of doing something that's designed that may be seasonal, maybe something that happens more than just during this COVID crisis.
I'd like to see that. That's more of the direction as a planning board that I think we could help with. Thinking of the master planning side of what might happen to downtown and down to the lake and outdoor seating, dining, whatever it might be, even community spaces. It's something that as a planning board, again, my goal is I want Wakefield to be more walkable. And I think this could be really helpful to keep pushing that effort.
I mean, not to throw cold water on you or anything, but you see how much involvement is being facilitated through the planning board for the whole redevelopment of downtown. Absolutely none. They barely even invite us, and actually they schedule meetings for simultaneously when we're having meetings. So I'd like to think that they value our opinion, but I just don't see it.
Thanks, Matt. There's a good balance on our board. It's good to hear. It's good to hear. It's true. I'm a dreamer. I just think, like, as a board, I want something bigger for us to do than to review subdivisions and these plans. I really, really am hoping for us to take on more and to be able to, I mean, I know we're a 3-person board and we're working on it, and I see Joanne is there again tonight. Thank you. But it's good to think about what's next. And I guess that's more of my point. What's next for our planning board with the restructuring, with COVID-19 and after? So to Paul's point, what is it going to look like? I'll send an email and copy Paul to Mr. Mayo and to see if I'll get any traction on that, to see if there's any place for our planning board. And if not, again, I'm interested in also helping out any of the restaurants or businesses. Just even if they just need to understand what their occupancy load would be, it's not difficult to do.
I think certainly the zoning bylaw for outdoor dining needs to be reworked and made simpler. It was cobbled together at a time when no one really wanted to approve outdoor dining. And I think Mr. Mayo and I were able to push this through, bringing other departments along. And when you read it, it's very cumbersome. It needs to be streamlined. It needs to be completely reworked. So that certainly would come back through the planning board to be a town meeting article. I think it's a general bylaw right now.
I think it is too.
And but it does tie in with the zoning requirements for seating and parking, and that could be looked at as well.
Okay, that's a really good starting point, Paul. I'm thinking of this.
I think a re-examination of that bylaw and making it streamlined would be very welcome.
Okay, that's exactly what I was looking for tonight, is some type of a straw to grasp to see what we could help with, start to get into, and if it's restructuring and looking at the zoning bylaw for outdoor seating and dining, it's a great place to start. Cool. I have one more thing. I got to talk to Linda this week or last week, and you can see she's here tonight. Thank you. To take notes and to look. We went through all the different scenarios and we had a great conversation. And I sent an email to Mr. Mayo and copied Paul about some options that could happen. And Linda brought up a really good point that I wanted to make sure as a board we discussed quickly too. It would be, what if it's just not one clerk, but our current clerk, Linda, could take on the responsibility of the agenda, of writing and posting the legal notices, making sure the meeting rooms, when we do get back to town hall, are all aligned and reserved. And the rest of the work, well, of course, the meeting notes, sorry, and posted. The other work of the plans being recorded and checked and all that could happen from an assistant clerk, somebody who is, let me see, I don't want to, in the conversation with Mr. Mayo, he did mention that he does have somebody in mind that could take care of the plans part, because that was our biggest concern. So I was thinking, after Linda's conversation, and drafted an email to Mr. Mayo and copied Paul, that this could be another compromise or an option that could work. Obviously, compensation needs to be worked out, and that's not our job. That's something that the town administrator, Mr. Mayo, will have to review and take care of. But I just wanted, as a board, to bring this up to see what your thoughts are.
So who's going to be handling it right now? Sherry? What's
I don't know anybody's handling it right now.
I don't think there's anybody.
All right. So
Once
when
Paul's gone, no one handles it. It's zero. It's us.
So if someone wants to submit a plan or be on the agenda, there's no, how does that happen?
Well, after Paul's gone, the email's going to have to come to me. And the clerk will have to make sure it gets on the agenda, and we'll have to, figure out how this works.
So the town isn't working for a solution at all? They're waiting for us to tell them what to do? Is that what it is, or?
My understanding is if we don't speak up, it's not going to happen. It's going to be the end of June. Paul's going to be retired, happily retired, and hopefully happily retired. And we'll be on our own with the agenda, with everything. And Linda, right now, her compensation, her hours taking care of meeting notes. So she does have some experience with agendas and doing that. And we can definitely have that in her, on her task list. The plans is the part that does not work with her current employment at the police station and everything else. So we know we can't have plans sent to the police station, all that done there. And Linda can't be at town hall a couple times a week for who knows how many hours. So that's the part, that's the responsibility that we don't have coverage for. And I'm looking to the town administrator to find a solution for that.
Yeah, I don't know why it's being left on our shoulders when it's, you know, this whole thing is a byproduct of town administration.
Right.
Is eliminating a job and not replacing some of the duties. So why shouldn't the onus be on them to provide a plan and see if we like it or not the other way around? Because we could provide anything, we could suggest anything. It's going to cost more money. Someone's got to get paid more. I mean, we don't have final say over that. So we could propose 100 different things. They can all be rejected. So let's not waste our time and say, what do you propose? I mean, proposing nothing is basically saying the board can't operate.
Okay.
Because if someone needs to file a plan, there has to be a process.
Understood. So as a board, and I've already taken the step to send the town administrator a proposal for what we'd be looking for. I haven't heard back, but I'll follow up again and be more candid about, we need a solution from the town administrator's office in the next week or two. We need this solved. We need some overlap. And this is something that I wrote in the message as well. We need some overlap the last week of June, or sometime that Paul and Linda and some type of an assistant clerk or whoever would be in that position needs to understand the process and the tricks and the efficiencies that Paul has worked out over the years. Bill, I'm sorry, it sounded like you were going to say something.
No, I wasn't done. And I'm agreeing, I totally agree with you, but I totally agree with Matt too. They did put it on our shoulders, and this should, Paul's leaving, so we need somebody to do what he was doing. What did they think, we were gonna just pull this out of the thin air and just start doing it all ourselves? I mean, come on, let's get realistic. We all do work. We all do have lives, and they should be proposing to replace them.
Right.
That could
So here's my biggest fear for the planning board, not in life. My biggest fear is that Paul retires, Linda's doing her work, something isn't getting done right. One of us, me, someone has to pick that up. Matt wasn't going to run for re-election. Why would he run? Why wouldn't he just, like, why does he have to put up with this? If this is, why do I, and if this starts to go, I don't need to do this extra stuff, and neither do you, Bill. So,
Right, I know.
and that's something that the town has to be prepared for as well. It's like, to put the burden on this board without finding a solution is going to cause it to self-destruct in a lot of ways. We're already...
We have a burden now.
Right.
Shot 2 people. I mean, what else can we live with? I mean, if one of us is sick, we can't even have a meeting.
Right.
Okay. And so, I mean, now they want us to do, they want us to do it all. you can't do it. It just can't be done.
Understood.
So I think we should, I don't know, have a meeting with someone, maybe the town Mr.
Administrator, yep.
Bill, maybe.
We
we
had one of
could-
those, Bill. So I'm sorry. Linda, is that you?
It was me. I was just gonna say, maybe one day before Paul retires, we could go to his office and see, see what it is, how he accepts the plans and all of that.
We have
Because
to do
how
that.
often do we get plans? Seriously?
Paul can answer that, but I would imagine some weeks there might be a table full, and other weeks, maybe none.
I'm
Yeah.
not trying to require everybody to submit them electronically.
That
Yeah,
would be a solution.
having them recorded.
A&Rs,
I'm sorry, Paul, go ahead.
A&Rs, the plans from Hayes, everything I'm trying to get it as PDFs. So that I can create, directories on my computer, store it electronically, distribute it to the planning board, use those PDFs for postings on the town website. That's where we'd like to move. So it's becoming more electronic than physical plans that you used to handle.
Excellent points. And just to Linda's comment, yes, there has to be a day where, Paul, I'd like to meet you in your office and just to walk through the process too. That way I just understand it. Going electronic should be all these.
That would be I'm losing my mind, a good resolution for somebody accepting the plans,
Right.
if that could all work out.
And I have to admit, I'm not sure the process myself of what happens to the plans from Paul's desk. And I know most of the attorneys end up shuffling those plans around, whether it's electronic or physical drawings to be signed. So then it becomes the signing part. And what I did learn in the last week is that I can electronically sign drawings, not the Mylars, but the papers that need to be signed from the board. And that's something I use an electronic signature for through a PDF. And I asked town council, Mr. Mullen, to make sure that was okay. And he said, yes.
Well, that's good too.
Right. And
I don't view my leaving and what's going to happen as being things falling away. And I view it as being things getting notched up to be more technical and more electronic. And I think for the board, it's going to be very positive to make some of those shifts.
thank you for your optimism. I like that. That makes me feel better. And I think that's obviously the direction to go. It's still going to take time and compensation for someone to organize these. The file structure, I imagine, needs to work in conjunction with how the town website, and we don't have to go into that, but how things are posted to the town website, how they're named. So the whole taxonomy, the file structure, everything should be per town standards. I'm not sure if there are any, but that's something that is on my question in the notes now too. Well, this is what I was hoping for, a good discussion to continue. And if nobody has anything else, I know Joanne, you're attending another meeting, which is wonderful. Do you have anything to share? You're there.
I'm here. I'm still here. You can still see me. Looks like my video is a little dark.
It's getting dark outside. It is.
Yeah, it's very dark. No, I don't have anything to add tonight.
Okay. Thanks for your presence. It's good. I'm glad you're attending, and hopefully, like me and some of us, were learning more of how this works.
Yeah.
Yep. Tonight was different. Tonight we had a different episode of Wakefield's Planning Board with the Montrose School Lane.
Yes.
All right. Well, thanks, everybody, tonight. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn unless there's anybody else that has a comment.
No, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second that.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you all. Appreciate the time. And Paul, thank you for your optimism and help too.
Nice seeing everybody.
Yes, it's good to see you too.
You
Bye.
guys too.
Thanks.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
Good night.